Welcome back. In this video, we are going to dive deeper into seventh chords. Namely, we are going to explore the different inversions of a seventh chord. If you are unfamiliar with seventh or triads, definitely check out the video on triad inversions. And if you have not watched part 1 of the seventh chords introduction, then go ahead and check that out first. Okay? Without further ado, let's dive right in. So first of all, let's go over again what a seventh chord is. So a seventh chord is comprised of 4 notes. We have a root, which I'll do in black. We have a third, which I'll do in blue. A fifth, and a seventh. So there's 4 parts to the chord. Now, when dealing with inversions, remember, we're only concerned with what the bass note is, whether the bass note's the root, the third, the fifth, and in this case, the seventh. So let's take this one for example. So the bass note's always the lowest note. In this case, the bass note is the root of the chord. So we're going to write that. The bass is the root, which means we are in what we call root position. Root position. And now let's determine the figured bass. And figured bass is simply a measurement of the intervals between the bass note, the lowest note, and the other notes of the chord. So if we compare the seventh to the root, well, that's obviously a seventh. The fifth to the root is a fifth. The third to the root is a third. So our figured bass symbol would be 7, 5, 3. However, you might recall that a root position triad is a 5, 3. Okay, so that can get confusing. We're going to leave that off. We're going to simplify this and just call it 7. So for example, if you have a chord like a 1 chord, and it says 1, 7, that means you're dealing with a root position 7th chord. That's what it's telling us, a root position 7th chord. All right, so that's 1. Now we have 4 different notes, which means that we should have 4 different possible positions. Let's talk about the next one. So all we're going to do is invert this chord by moving the root higher. So this time we're going to start off with the third in the bass position, the lowest position, followed by the fifth, followed by the seventh, and followed by the root. So now what is the bass note? Well, it's the third. The bass equals the third. What position is this in? Well, this is going to be first inversion. Just like in triads, when the third is in the bass position, it's in first inversion. The same goes for seventh chords. All right, let's figure out the figured bass. To do this, we're going to check the intervals between the bass note and the other notes. Okay, so the root to the third is a sixth, then a fifth, then a third. So figured bass here would be 6, 5, 3. Now you might recall that in a triad, a 6-3 figured bass refers to a first inversion triad. So that's a little confusing. We're going to leave off the 3 to simplify this and just call this 6-5. An example, we could write, say, 4, a 4 chord with a figured bass symbol of 6-5, which tells us that this is a first inversion 7th chord, which means the third is in the bass. All right, moving along. Next, our fifth is in the bass, followed by our seventh, then our root, and then our third. Okay? So we're just going in logical order. The fifth is in the bass. What inversion would this be? That's right, it would be second inversion. Now let's check our intervals. We have a sixth, we have a fourth, and then we have a third. So the figured bass symbols would be 6, 4, 3. Remember in triads, a 6-4 figured bass refers to a second inversion triad, so that's a little confusing. we're going to leave off the 6 so that we're left with just 4, 3 for our figured bass. So an example of this, let's just say 3, 4, 3, a 3 chord, okay, as an example. Now, all of these are just examples. This is not actually, this could be a 1 chord, this could be a 5 chord, it really doesn't matter. I'm just showing you how it will be notated when you write Roman numeral analysis with figured bass. And so 4, 3 figured bass simply means you're in second inversion, the fifth is in the bass position. Finally, let's get to our last one. So now our 7th is going to be in the bass, the lowest note, followed by the root, then the 3rd, and of course our 5th. So the bass equals the 7th. This is in 3rd inversion. There we go. And if we check our intervals, we have a 6th, a 4th, and a 2nd. So our figured bass is 6, 4, 2. And again, the 6, 4 refers to second inversion triad. So we're going to simplify this into just 4, 2 for our figured bass. You could write this as a 5, 4, 2, for example. Okay? So those are your figured bass symbols for 7th chords. Okay? Now I want to show you that you can actually see these a little bit. So let me just do this on a fresh staff here. You can visualize this. So let's say that you're dealing with root position. Okay? Well, that's obviously root position. We're just going to call this 7, root position. Okay? If we're dealing with first inversion, let's see if we can spot this now. Check this out. I highlighted these 2 notes here because this is the 6 and this is the 5. See? We can see the 6, 5. Right? Because this is a 6th and this is a 5th. So you can visually see it in the notation very quickly. It might look like this too, by the way. So you might have space note, then space note, line note. Right? So when you're looking at inversion sevenths, just look for the 2 adjacent notes. If the 2 adjacent notes aren't on top, that means it's its first inversion, 6, 5. Let's follow this same methodology here and see what these others look like. And hopefully this is beginning to become a little bit easier for you to spot. You can also look like this if it's starting on a space note. Okay. This would be a 4th and a 3rd. So these are 4, 3. So if the 2 middle notes are adjacent, okay, like this, a 2nd apart, that means you're dealing with a 4, 3 figured bass or second inversion. And lastly, if you are looking at the bottom 2 notes being adjacent, seconds, or this, okay, well, you can see this too. Here's a 2nd, here's a 1st, or unison. So you're dealing with a 4, 2, okay, because here's the 4th there, right? 4, 2, 3rd inversion. Okay, so let's do a quick quiz on this. Let's do a little drill. All right, just to drill this home a little bit. All right, here's our first example. Where is the 2nd? Well, the 2nd is here on the top. which means you're dealing with a 6, 5. First inversion, 7th chord. Let's take another example. Where is the second? Here. Well, the second is in the middle. If it's in the middle, you're dealing with a 4, 3. Second inversion, 7th. 5th in the bass. Let's take another example. Where is the second? Well, the second is here on the bottom, which means you're dealing with a 4, 2. Third inversion, 7th. 7th in the bass. Okay? Obviously, this will take a little practice to get faster with, but you do want to get to the point where you can very quickly identify just by the appearance. Okay? Let me show you, for example. Just from the appearance, which position, which inversion we're in. Okay? So they're all line notes, root position. The top note changes, which means you have your second up here. Well, that's going to be first inversion. 6, 5. The middle is the second. That's where it changes. This is going to be second inversion, 4, 3. The bottom two notes are a second. That's going to be third inversion, 4, 2. Okay? So practice this. And let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. I hope this video was helpful. And in the next video, we're going to dive into some examples in your homework assignments as well as your in-class worksheets to show you how to solve for these with some additional examples. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.